Hi guys, it's you and welcome back to another true crime. Today I have a very scary story for you guys. I have decided to combine horror and true crime this time since it's Halloween. So I was like, might as well, do this. I am so scared to talk about this story. Honestly, I was so scared while researching it as well. So you guys have been warned. Honestly, like if something happens to me after this, if I get possessed or something after this, then you guys know what's up. Because this story is gonna be very, very scary and I hope you guys are ready for it because I am certainly not. Now, when I say that you guys have been warned, I really want to warn you guys because I'm going to be putting up some very disturbing pictures and maybe disturbing videos and audio clips as well. So I just want you guys to be warned and I don't want you guys to blame me for not sleeping at night then. This is gonna be quite a disturbing case. So I just want you guys to know what y'all are in for. So this case is actually pretty famous, but not so much. I'll tell you why. So I'm sure majority of you have seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose, but many of you may not know that this movie is actually based on a true story. So today we are going to be talking about what happened to the real Emily Rose. Her name is Anneliese Michel and we are going to be talking about what happened to Anneliese Michel. Anyway, I have a lot of things to say about this case, a lot of questions to ask you guys about this case, which I will be doing at the end of the video. So stay tuned for the entire story because we have a lot to discuss. Anyway, we're just gonna get into the video directly. So Anneliese Michel was born in West Germany. She was a Catholic and she was someone who was a very religious person. She would make sure that she attended mass twice a week. When Anneliese was 16 and she was in school, one day she just randomly blacked out and then she started walking around in a really weird, dazed state. And although she did not remember this incident, her friends and family said that, yeah, like this had happened to you, and then suddenly you were just walking around in like this weird trance state. A year later, when Anneliese was in bed in her own house, she had the same experience. She got up in a trance-like state, and this time she had also wet her bed. And this time she also had a series of convulsions which really made her body shake like uncontrollably. So obviously after the second time, Anneliese and her family decided to visit a doctor and see what was happening because this was the second time that something like this had happened and obviously it was not normal. So Anneliese ended up visiting a neurologist who diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy, a disorder that causes seizures, loss of memory, and experiencing visual and auditory hallucinations. So after Anneliese was diagnosed with epilepsy, she was given medication for it and she also ended up enrolling for the University of Würzburg in 1973. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, so please don't mock me for it. However, after some time of being on medication for her epilepsy, Anneliese realized that the medicine was not helping her, and as the year went by, her condition was just getting worse and worse. She somehow had just thought to herself that she was definitely possessed by a demon and that the medication was not working at all, and because she thought she was possessed, she thought that medicine would not work for her and that she had to find a solution outside of medicine. So the reason why Anneliese thought she was possessed was because she would see the devil's face everywhere she went and she would also hear the demon whispering in her ears. When Anneliese would sit down and pray, she would hear the devil whispering things like you're damned and that you would rot in hell, which is when she realized that she was definitely possessed for sure. So Anneliese was unofficially diagnosed with possession for the first time when she had gone on a pilgrimage with an elderly woman who was, I think, her aunt. That woman basically noticed that Anneliese refused to walk past an image of Jesus Christ and she also refused to drink the holy water, and that is when she realized that something is wrong. And also Anneliese smelled really, really bad, and so she ended up taking her to a priest in a nearby town, and he was the one who first diagnosed her and said that she is definitely possessed. So after Anneliese realized she was possessed, she ended up contacting a lot of priests and asking them to help her, but they all refused. They said that he should just seek medical help, and they also said that they had to contact the bishop and get the permission of the bishop to perform any sort of procedure on her regardless. So after a point, her delusions became very extreme. She started doing some crazy things, something that no, normal human, someone who had a normal state of mind would do, and she just, like, the things that she did were just weird. I don't have any other word to explain it. They were just really weird. So some of the crazy things that Anneliese used to do, believing she was possessed, she ripped the clothes off her body. She used to compulsively perform up to 400 squats a day. She crawled under a table and barked like a dog for several days. She also ate spiders, she ate coal, she bit the head off a dead bird and licked her own urine from the floor sometimes. So after a while, Anneliese and her mother did actually end up finding a priest who wanted to help them. His name was Ernst Alt, and he really did think that Anneliese was possessed. And he also said that Anneliese did not look like an epileptic in later court documents. So Alt petitioned the local bishop, who eventually approved the request and granted a local priest, Arnold Renz, permission to perform an exorcism, but ordered that this all must be a total secret. In the 1960s, exorcisms weren't really famous. Like, people didn't care about them so much. They weren't really practiced so much. They existed, but they were just like really rare. But in the 1970s, there was a rise in movies and books like The Exorcist, which had recently come out, which basically created a new interest for the people in this whole term of exorcism. So after the bishop gave permission to perform exorcisms on Anneliese, the two priests, Arnold and Ernst, ended up performing 67 exorcisms on Anneliese, and some of them lasted for like 4 hours, and this all happened over a span of 10 months. So eventually Anneliese ended up revealing the fact that she had been possessed by 6 demons, which were Judas, Cain, Hitler, Lucifer, a disgraced priest, and Nero. So basically what all these demons would do is that they would constantly be fighting with each other to gain complete power of Anneliese's body, and they would communicate in a low growl. So throughout these sessions, Anneliese would frequently tell the priests and talk to them about dying to atone for the wayward youth of the day and the apostate priests of the modern church. She ended up breaking her bones, and she ripped the tendons in her knees from continuously kneeling in prayer for a very long time. So over these next 10 months, Anneliese majority of the time was restrained so that the priest could perform the exorcism rites, and eventually she stopped eating, and Anneliese died of malnutrition and dehydration on July 1st, 1976. She was just 23 years old at that time. So Anneliese's death became sort of a national sensation in Germany because the two priests that conducted the exorcism and her parents were charged with negligent homicide. They even brought recordings of Anneliese's exorcism into court later on to justify their actions, to tell the court that she was actually possessed and let them know that, this is what was happening, this is how she was acting. But they ended up being charged with the crimes either way. So the two priests who conducted the exorcisms were basically charged with manslaughter resulting from negligence, and they were sentenced to 6 months in jail, which was later suspended, and they were also given 3 years of probation. The parents, however, were not charged with anything because of a result of having suffered too much, which is basically a criteria for sentencing in German law. The people who were really close to Anneliese really thought that she was possessed and really thought that this was something of a demonic possession and nothing else, not an illness, not something that she had suffered, for example the epilepsy, which could have caused some hallucinations, some delusions. No, they just thought that she really was possessed. There were a lot of people who actually came down from various places, came down to a grave, and they put and wrote some notes and kept it on a grave saying that thank you so much for doing so much for us, thank you for helping us, thank you so much, for everything that you've sacrificed for us. So now, I think now is where we talk about certain things that I want to talk about. So when it comes to Anneliese, for her, she honestly thought that, she had to suffer and she had to go through all this torture in order to help other people. So she was sort of this scapegoat, I would say. And she chose to do this. She chose to be the one who goes through all this in order to help other people. She was dealing with all this torture so she could help other people, so other people would not have to go through this torture. She was going through it. She was like, okay, I will take the responsibility of, you know, going through this torture so I can help other people. And this is why a lot of religious people really looked up to her and, you know, visited her grave and, you know, did all those sorts of things because they appreciated what she did for them, because they were really religious and they believed that she did this for the people. And she had also obviously mentioned earlier that she wanted to do this to help people and she wanted to do this for other people. So obviously there were some religious people who really looked up to her and really looked up to what she did. And then there are obviously other people who thought that she was someone who was mentally ill. She did not get the proper treatment. She could have been saved, but because, you know, people turned this into this whole religious thing, this whole possession thing, they did not end up giving her the right treatment and she could have been saved, but she obviously died. So this was basically it. I think it just depends on how you guys are going to look at this case. Are you going to look at it in a way that in a way of faith, in a way of religion, in a way of spirituality, or are you going to look at it in a way that no, like it's science, like she was mentally ill, you have to be practical, like, you know, she had epilepsy, you know, she could have had some hallucinations, it was all delusions, it wasn't actually the fact that she was possessed. So guys, the thing is that there was no doctor who was present during these exorcisms. Throughout the last couple of exorcisms, Anneliese was so tired, she could not do anything on her own. She had given up eating. She was just so malnourished and so weak that her parents had to come and help her do, you know, all the stuff that they have to do in an exorcism. And she was just really, really weak. And people think that if there was a doctor present, then maybe, you know, they would have taken care of her health wise and made some decisions health wise. And also a lot of people think that if they would have force fed Anneliese, then maybe she would have still been alive because she refused to eat anything. But her sister also testified in court saying that she did not want to be force fed. She did not want to be put in a mental institution where she was just going to be drugged. Like, that is something that she did not want. So I guess maybe that's why they didn't do any of those following things. But I also think, I mean, considering the fact that when you know your daughter is so weak and she's not eating anything, there's such a big chance of her dying and you're not doing anything you possibly can to save her. Like, you can see her dying in front of you and you're not doing anything is just a little weird to me. It doesn't sit right to me. Like, when you know you have a loved one who is going through something, you would do anything to keep them alive. Like, this is like a life and death situation. So to be honest, when it comes to me, I still am really on the fence about it. I really don't know. I do believe in paranormal activities. I do believe that there are spirits and then there are good spirits and bad spirits. I personally have never experienced anything paranormal. I haven't seen any spirits or anything of that sort, so I can't really confirm anything. Obviously, there's just something about this case. I would definitely recommend you guys to watch the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose if you haven't yet. So, oh my god, I have to tell you guys, I was so scared to talk about this case. I was so scared to research this case. I have not researched or thought about this case post it being dark because I am shit scared of Anneliese or the movie Emily Rose, because I don't know, like, I've seen that movie like 2-3 times and it just gives me such a bad vibe because I know it was a true story, so it just scares me because I'm already so scared of all these demons and, you know, all this scary paranormal shit that I just get scared. You know, I feel like if I research so much about it and all, then like, I don't know, I'll get possessed or some shit like that because I'm thinking so much about it. But I feel like the more I've researched it and the more I read about a story, I feel like maybe it wasn't so much of a possession. Maybe, you know, because the fact that she was diagnosed with epilepsy in the beginning, which could have caused her hallucinations, I feel like maybe her situation got worse and she wasn't given the right treatment, which is why these things happen. I definitely can't justify all the actions that she did when she thought she was possessed, because I don't know what happens when you have been diagnosed with this sort of a disease and it's not cured properly. Could these things happen? Like, I don't know, maybe I need to like talk to an expert about this because I am so interested in this. Like initially, like I was totally convinced that she was possessed. Like I was like, yeah, this girl was possessed. But obviously now that I'm reading more about it for you guys, my thoughts have changed a little bit. So I want to know what you guys thought about this case. Do you think she was possessed, or do you think this was just a mental illness? I want to know if you guys believe in paranormal activities. Do you think they can happen? Have you guys ever experienced any paranormal activities? Please let me know in the comments below. I would love to know. I am very much into all these things. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I must say that after spending so much time sitting and recording this case, I am not as scared as I was before. I feel really bad for her. She was just 23. She lost her life. She had her entire life in front of her. You know, she had this burden on her where she thought that she had to sacrifice herself and pay for the sins of everybody around her, which I was just like, you're young and this is what you're thinking and going through. It's just really sad. I don't know, like I don't think I'm scared of Anneliese anymore. I just really feel for her, you know. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments below what you thought about this case. I really want to know. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel because it really helps me. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.